What is up, everybody? Brett here, my YouTube channel, Good Talk Gaming, and we're back playing some more Total War Warhammer 2. Going to be doing a 1v1 against my good buddy Triari. It was a bit of a fun day of unit testing and army composition testing for us, and we were trying to answer the age-old question, Wood Elves or Dwarves, right? So we played one game where I was the Dwarves and he was the Wood Elves, and it was pretty stompy. I like to think I'm a pretty good Dwarf player, and I was able to put my skills to good use. And he was like, you know what, I don't think Wood Elves can ever beat the Dwarves. And I said, you know, you might be right. It's definitely a difficult matchup, but give me a minute and I'm going to throw together an army composition that I think is somewhat close. Depending on what the Dwarves end up doing, I think a build that I can put together may be somewhat close to being the type of build that you need as the Wood Elves to take down a Dwarf player. So I'm going to go into that as the battle starts. And you'll see here my Waystalker absolutely tearing into these Quarrelers. And I have two of them on the battlefield. And the ability that you see that he's using here is called the Arrow of Kurnos. Has huge 600 meter range, great armor piercing, and it usually gets a lot of kills every time it shoots. You only have 3 of them. Back in the good old days, you used to get unlimited numbers. But that was a bit broken considering how invisible these guys can be. So the general idea behind my army composition is armor piercing. Not giving the Dwarves a good target to shoot at with their artillery and their ranged components, and just making sure that I have lots and lots of armor piercing and lots of options for sniping out important targets. So my main line here is just a bunch of Eternal Guards without shields, decent armor piercing for a very cheap unit, and great leadership as well. And they're being led by a standard Glade Lord. So he unfortunately does do magic damage on his ranged attacks, but he's so very cheap once stripped down that I liked him a lot. He's essentially almost like a mini Waystalker, just shooting his bow. He has 190 range, which is pretty great. Out on the flanks here, you'll notice that I do have 5 units of the Deepwood Scouts, the kind of middle-of-the-road archer units for the Wood Elves that for any other race would be like their top-tier elite archers. But these are the non-magic dealing variant, because once again we don't want magic damage against the Dwarves. We just need them for their armor piercing and their range, as well as the fact that they can pretty much stay stalked for quite some time. They have Master Ambusher and they can fire in any direction, so they're able to kite out Dwarves quite easily. And this unit of Dwarf Warriors I think was left here perhaps unintentionally, but it's going to do a good job of soaking up a lot of fire from me and scouting out some of the locations of my units. So I have 5 units of them, 1 in the front here, directly in front, 2 on each side, and the 2 on each side are accompanied by a Waystalker, stripped down to essentially just have that Arrow of Kurnos, which over a long game, we're going to find great targets for it. I use it on the Quarrelers right at the beginning just to get it out of the way for my micro, but I'm going to switch over those to the Norgerling's Ironbreakers, which are the front line for the Dwarves here, and you'll see these guys, probably the strongest infantry unit in the game. With their satchels and their huge armor, 125 armor, bronze shields, and 86 melee defense. These guys are absolutely nuts. Also, the last component of my army that I want to go over, I think I have 4, yes, I absolutely do. I have 4 of the Hawk Riders. So the reason you take these guys is not because of their missile damage. Their missile damage absolutely sucks, and it doesn't go very well through Dwarven armor or Dwarven shields, but what these guys essentially are is very fast, very mobile, and hard-hitting shock cav in the sky. So you use them for their melee attack, use them for their weapon strength, which is 45 and actually has a decent armor-piercing component to it. And in times of trouble, whenever we pick off a unit, we want them there to take full advantage of it. They're very easy to damage and to rout off. They received a buff several patches back to their unit model number. They used to be a lot smaller models, and it was a lot easier to kill a few of them and then rout off the whole unit. But now they're much more difficult to pick off, and we have 2 on each side, and they're going to be looking for good targets. If they can't find a target to go into melee on, it's fine. You just sit them in the air and take pot shots all day. My opponent here, moving his Quarrelers, which was, I think, a pretty great choice. The armor on the Quarrelers is going to be helpful. 80 armor and bronze shields on a ranged unit is quite nice, and 160 range is not bad. So they're going to be moving into counter skirmish. I do have the range advantage and 360 field of fire, so there's no real reason for me to sit here and trade shots with them when I can easily back up every time they get into range and kite them just a tiny bit in that fashion. And in just a minute here, once I've shot enough of my ammunition, I feel confident, I'm going to move forward with my front line and my Glade Lord. But you can understand why I don't want to immediately move forward, and that's because there's a bolt thrower here, there's a bolt thrower there, a bolt thrower there, and they have a few chevrons each. They are highly accurate, kind of ballista style dwarven weapons, and they would be very good against any type of, tree unit, any type of large unit. They're very good at hitting, but they're also super cheap, and over the course of a long battle, if they're well protected, even if they're just shooting into archers, they'll get their value usually. So I think we have 3 quarrelers off to the side. Yep, 3 quarrelers here. Do we have more here? We have 2 more quarrelers there. Wow, so 6 quarrelers in total. I had a good feeling that Triari kind of knew what type of build I was going for, and 6 quarrelers certainly counters that build quite a bit. The Dwarf Lord here, very cheap. He did kind of the same thing that I like to do. You strip him down, basically just use him as a tanky leadership block, but you still keep stand your ground. That's a nice AoE buff for your army. And Foe Seeker is fine if you need to give him some vigor, keep him fighting as well. And then the rest, I think, is just going to be Dwarf Warriors, standard Dwarf Warriors, no need for extra armor piercing against the Elves. And a single Runesmith? No, 2 Runesmiths being used basically as Rune of Wrath and Ruin batteries. You'll see here they're 1 rune, which can slow down units and deal damage. So that's going to be great versus what I have. So this is a very good anti-elf army. Lots of shields and lots of quarrelers. So let's see how they do if we kind of back up and take a look at the overarching battlefield. As I kind of move in, very carefully try and position my Hawk Riders, who are going to be taking constant fire from these bolt throwers. In retrospect, I like the Hawk Riders as a pick in this matchup, but I'm not so sure I like them in this great number. And there you go, the first kind of volley goes into the Ironbreakers, kills 10. Absolutely devastating for my Waystalker there. To kill 10 Ironbreakers before the fight even starts felt great. And had I not wasted a shot on the Quarrelers earlier, we could certainly have gotten more kills off of that. Bolt Thrower is going to be deadly accurate versus my Hawk Riders, and I'm trying my best to keep them out of harm's way. But the range on those things, there, of course, artillery is pretty good. And I hate using my ammunition to fire at Dwarf Warriors, but there's pretty much nothing on this battlefield that doesn't have a shield. So I need to just take my time, choose my targets well, but at the end of the day know that they're not going to be as maximum effective as I would like for them to be. I move this stray Deepwood Scout over to the side. I didn't feel like there was any value to be gained by leaving him up the center. We want him out to the flanks. We want to be kind of straining the targeting of these artillery pieces if they want to, shoot at us. We have these 2 units of Hawk Riders here poised in the back, hoping to shut down these Quarrelers who are kind of rushing to meet them. Waystalkers have great piercing attacks. They usually don't just kill 1 unit model when they hit, they usually kill several. So now we're coming in, we're trying to get at the, the fleshy underbelly of the Dwarven army here in these Quarrelers and do a lot of damage on the charge. I'm trying to make sure I get as many of them at once as I can. And we did a ton of damage on the charge, but I probably should have pulled them out almost instantly, and some of them I do. I want to use them as shock cavalry. I want to cycle charge with them, but Triari is going to do a good job of responding very quickly. And it's at this point that I have so many of their ranged components tied down that I'm going to want to make sure that I'm moving up my front line. Another devastating, I think 14 kills on those Norgling Ironbreakers from my Waystalker. So when you see this guy has 47 kills, 50 kills now, 20-something of those are from Norgling's Ironbreakers, and 64 kills on those guys. I think they were the unsung heroes of this game. Literally heroes, the Waystalkers. They did a great job. And unfortunately, these Hawk Riders now are starting to crumble a bit. Needed to pull them out, but I also needed really to shut down these Quarrelers. The front line, the Dwarf Warriors here, are getting buttered up nicely, because once the Eternal Guard come in, there's really no front line left for them to fight, which was super intentional. One of my units of Eternal Guard gets absolutely roasted by the satchel charges of the Northernlings Ironbreakers, and I don't really want to fight them, but I do want to tie them down. And since they've taken enough damage, it may actually be a fight that my Eternal Guard can hold in for some time. My Glaylord already up to 20 kills. He's just sitting here shooting, picking his targets well. Eternal Guard, I'm trying to spread them out. I want to get them on as many different targets as possible, but the Dwarf army has gone so wide with Quarrelers, with Warriors, that I'm not able to tie down all of his assets. And you'll see here that my Deepwood Scouts are quickly running out of ammunition. I'm trying to shut down these bolt throwers, which have kind of been left unprotected. My Waystalker, up to 88 kills, has come out of the forest because he doesn't have any ammunition any longer, and he's a decent duelist, as his unit card states. So him fighting a runesmith, I liked my odds there. So in a second here, I think we're going to just turn around and take this fight, because I think he can take him without all of his defensive buffs that the Rune Lord can sometimes field. My Deepwood Scouts, one of them actually managed to get skirmished down there. It's a nice little bastion of range strength from the dwarves there, and staying together like that is going to make them very hard for me to crack and to get on them. Yep, now they're firing into the backs of my Eternal Guard. My Hawk Riders have rallied in some respects, and they're going to be getting in on these Dwarf Warriors. Death is nothing. You're right, sir. Sir or ma'am. It's hard to tell sometimes with the Elves. But they're getting in here. You gotta love these animations. They were one of the units that I was the most excited about when the Wood Elves first dropped. And unfortunately, they're hidden behind the very annoying Amber mechanic in the campaign. If they weren't, I would probably have every army have like 10 of these guys in them. And that's how I would roll, with just tons of Hawk Riders. Still a bit of ammunition left on my Deepwood Scouts, but that's about it. And the thing about Deepwood Scouts is they're okay in melee. If I could get a full unit of Deepwood Scouts on a half-dead unit of Dwarf Warriors, I would feel pretty good about that fight. But no, there's still quite a few healthy Quarrelers and Dwarf Warriors here that we haven't taken out. And the thing about Quarrelers, they're kind of the exact same way with their armor, with their 28 melee defense. They're nearly the strength of a Dwarf Warrior in melee anyway, in addition to their ability to shoot. And there's still tons of ammunition left on them, and I'm trying to use my Hawk Riders to run some of these units off the battlefield to keep them from rallying. My Glaylord is in great shape. He's still shooting up to 43 kills. There's a bit of a blob here. We're trying to take advantage of that to shoot in, but the bolt throwers are back online, and they're absolutely carving us up. A lot of friendly fire there, actually. Not sure exactly who they're shooting at. Maybe the Deepwood Scouts, maybe the Waystalkers. But my Waystalker over here, slow it down so we can take a look at the titanic battle between the Waystalker and the Runesmith. A grudge as old as time. And gotta love that. Hammer versus like these dual-wielded swords. And they're kind of just hurting each other, but my army is slowly failing. You'll see here the balance of power very far out of my favor, mostly due to the fact, I think, that I ran out of ammunition. Ammunition does play a pretty huge part in the balance of power. A lot of dwarves being run off the battlefield, using my Deepwood Scouts in melee, but some of my units are starting to run, and that's going to trigger kind of a chain route for me. I was a little disappointed when we were playing. We were talking in Discord, and I was kind of shocked because I still had two very healthy Waystalkers. My Glade Lord was super healthy. You'll see here they were all doing just fine. I had a couple units of, very healthy infantry and some moderately healthy infantry. And then, my Deepwood Scouts were engaged, and I was using these guys to chase off the battlefield. I don't think I could have won. I'm not trying to say I could have won, but I think I could have made this fight look a lot better towards the end. And I think if I could do it over again, I would probably cut 2 of the Hawk Riders and maybe even 1 of the Deepwood Scouts. And that's almost 3K. That's about 3K worth of gold. And I think I could have found some better armor-piercing options, even if it would have just been more frontline infantry. Maybe some Wild Riders to harass, had I known there was going to be this much Quarreler pressure. But Triari did the right thing. We were trying to test the full limits of a Wood Elf build versus the Dwarves, and I think this is a pretty amazing anti-Wood Elf build with this many Quarrelers especially. And you know, all you need is Dwarf Warriors usually to beat the Wood Elves in melee. They're just as cheap as the Eternal Guard, and I think they win in a 1v1. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I think if I had to choose an MVP for this battle, it would be my double Waystalkers. These guys did a ton of work. Had I been focusing down the Norgleming Ironbreakers with their Arrows of Kurnos for the entire battle, from start to finish, I probably could have killed this entire unit without ever having to engage it in melee. And that's the strength of the Waystalkers. Yeah, nearly like 200 kills between them. Had this battle gone on longer, I have no doubt they would have each gotten about 100 kills. But anyway, guys, thank you so much. Once again, my name is Brett. My channel is Good Talk Gaming. Guys, if you see this video and you would like to subscribe, please do. Like the video if you did enjoy it. And if you have any replays on the most recent patch, you know, the Festag patch that launched recently, go ahead and send them to me. Basically, just add me on Steam. I'm Good Talk Gaming. Let me know, you know, you're a subscriber and you want to send me a replay, and I'll shoot you my email address, and you can just send me the replays there, and I'll take a look and consider casting them as a bit of a community cast style event on my channel. But that's going to be it for today. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you in the next one. Take care.